Into the conversation, someone who has walked us through and guided us through this very complex but major story. That's, of course, legal affairs journalist Meghann Cuniff. She joins me. Meghann, good to see you yet again. A lot has changed since you and I last spoke at this very time yesterday here. This is the 14-page indictment in my hand. 14 pages. Thought it was going to be a little longer, but it's not. I want to read the first paragraph, Meghann, of the indictment. They say this: for decades, Sean Combs, the defendant, abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice here. I guess my first question to you is this: how big of a deal is it that he was denied bail, the judge denying this request? I think it's safe to say, I can speak for everyone here in the LiveNOW newsroom, there was a collective gasp when we found that out. You were intimating as much that you weren't as surprised. Why?
Yeah, I think just the nature of the charges, and then the sex trafficking charge in particular, there's a presumption that it warrants detention. And the people who've gone before him in the Southern District of New York on that charge haven't fared very well. Jeffrey Epstein, there was a cult leader who actually Diddy's current lawyer represented a couple years ago at trial and was convicted. He was detained pre-trial too. So there definitely is a precedent for this. And just given the nature of the charges, it seemed like an uphill battle for him. He does have a chance tomorrow with his bail appeal hearing. I have, in my experience, seen district judges reverse magistrate judges and say, no, they made the wrong decision on bail, and here's a package we can come up with. I'm not sure if this case is going to be one of those cases. The incidents where I've seen those have not been cases of this nature, of this magnitude, or anything like that. So it will be interesting to see what his lawyers argue tomorrow, and if they put forth any kind of new argument, or if they're just plainly arguing that the magistrate judge got it wrong.
Meghann, the sweeping scope of this is just hard to overlook. I mean, it's massive, the tentacles that this indictment has. We can get into that in just a moment. But you're talking about some of the judge's rationale for denying bail here in the request. Prosecutors raised this assault video from 2016 between he and Cassie in that hotel hallway. It's very disturbing where he is physically assaulting her. The rationale the judge made essentially was if he were out before the trial took place, that he could engage in this behavior again. You're saying that's pretty standard from a judge, right?
Yeah, she did cite the violence, the nature of the charges, the violent nature. And yeah, I've seen that type of analysis from judges before when they're trying to do the balancing test on whether to allow bail. And I think that's a common route for them to go down. And prosecutors were, of course, really pushing that. And one thing that I think really weighed against him, and that is significant for the judge, is that pretrial services, which is an arm of U.S. District Court that's separate from the U.S. Attorney's Office, and it's supposed to be, more of a neutral assessment of what would a bail package look like. It's also the same people who do sentencing recommendations. They had recommended that he not be allowed out. They recommended he be detained pending trial. And that's a significant recommendation. And I noticed that the people who were at the courthouse today said that the judge actually, before she announced her decision, she went back into chambers and met with some representatives from pretrial services. So the fact that they didn't think that there was any kind of bond package or any kind of release package that they could approve, I think that probably weighed pretty heavily against him.
So, Meghann, though, the bail package Diddy's defense was offering, it's not peanuts. I mean, it's massive. $50 million they were offering, and it was denied here in a number of different ways. They were offering so much. Are you surprised that high dollar amount was denied? $50 million.
I'm not, because I don't think it would have been the money that was really the driving factor there. It would be something, but for somebody with his amount of wealth, I think a judge would expect that he would have to put some serious skin in the game. And for somebody like Diddy, that would be in the range of $50 million. So I think his lawyers, just given how experienced they are, knew that they had to do something like that. And one thing that just struck me reading through his bail package and everything is just how prepared his attorneys were for this. And then the months of correspondence they included where they're communicating with prosecutors about his travel plans and really just trying to be open about this. I think it shows that, they knew these charges were inevitable, and they were trying to set up a scenario that would keep him out of prison. And frankly, I also thought it was a testament to how much money he's spending on his defense, because he needs to be prepared to be spending tens of millions of dollars over the next few years. And I saw that he's put his house in LA up for sale. So I think he's preparing for some expensive criminal defense lawyering that's going to be going on.
Yeah, Meghann, let's read what the defense team has prepared. And you're talking about how prepared they were. A $50 million bond co-signed by him, his mother, his sister, the mother of his oldest daughter, and his 3 oldest sons, secured by the equity of his mother's Miami home, restricted travel to the Southern District of Florida and New York. Diddy and his family members' passports surrendered, not just him, home detention with GPS monitoring and other standard conditions of pretrial supervision. All of that was denied by the judge today. Meghann, let's get back, though, to the scope of the indictment here, because this is quite staggering. I want to read this here. The government has spoken to over 50 witnesses. They have sworn out warrants for cloud accounts. The search has yielded 90 cell phones and 30 other devices, including a surveillance system. And so there were 300, Meghann, grand jury subpoenas here, not to mention the raids back in March in the homes there in the Beverly Hills section and in Miami. We are learning what was taken from those raids. What was taken? What did we learn today from those raids, too?
Yeah, excuse me. They did mention, 3 assault rifles, 3 AR-15 assault rifles that actually had defaced serial numbers on them. And then there were some narcotics found. And then apparently they found some video evidence of this. They said they found 1,000 bottles, more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant that they think were used in these sexual encounters that Diddy was part of. But then there's also something in the indictment where they talk about witness coercion, and that after the lawsuits were filed in late 2023 and all these allegations started becoming public, they said that Diddy actually took it upon himself to record some of his conversations with potential witnesses where he talks about, things that they should say to try to refute any kind of investigation. And my reading of that, I got the impression that investigators know that because when they were searching his home, they found some of the recordings. Okay. So between the narcotics, the guns, and then the recordings of him talking to personal witnesses, that's been a window into it a little bit.
Meghann, it wasn't just we learned more from what was taken. So much was taken from these raids. We also learned what Diddy had in his hotel room last night when he was apprehended and taken into custody here. He had what appeared to be narcotics. This is according to the assistant U.S. attorney, found in his hotel last night, a pink powder that has previously tested positive for ecstasy and other drugs. So that, I thought, what was quite interesting here. Is Diddy a flight risk? Did that go into denying his bail as well? Or no, because they were surrendering passports?
I did not see that in the reporting, but there is some interesting stuff in his 10-page letter that was filed this morning about wanting bail. They talk about how he actually needed to move hotel rooms. So there was some indication that last night, at least, he was going to have to move hotel rooms. So I wonder if that got federal authorities' attention. But his lawyer also said today that he was planning on turning himself in, but authorities didn't want him to turn himself in because they wouldn't be able to make a strong argument for detention pending trial. So we've had some clues there.
Meghann, lastly, though, you've followed this story from start to finish, and it's really just beginning. You could make that argument here. Anything in the indictment, though, stand out to you that you did not know before about this entire saga? When you first read it, what struck out to you? What did you learn that you didn't know before?
I think we've heard rumors about a potential bribery and what went on with the hotel video, why that was suppressed. But this comes right out and says that he bribed a hotel employee, and the U.S. attorney said at the press conference that he offered a stack of cash. So it's more just seeing this in writing and having these allegations just on paper, boom, and then he's arrested pending trial. I think it's a huge reality check, and for him it's got to be, because I always just kind of wondered, what the defense was up to over the last few months, and it looks like they did see this coming, but we're kind of hoping they would be able to stave something off.
Meghann, depending on the duration of the allegations, and I'm not entirely sure how far they go back, but when you take that time frame, if you were anyone in Diddy's close orbit, do you have a target on your back by prosecutors?
I thought what was interesting was in listening to the prosecutor talk, it sounds like there are a lot of people around Diddy who could be considered unindicted co-conspirators.
Oh.
And he indicated that there's still an investigation that's ongoing. There could be possible charges, but it seems like a lot of people around him are in a position to become testifying witnesses for the prosecution to avoid any kind of criminal charges or criminal implication themselves. It sounds like there are a lot of people who could get up on the witness stand and testify as eyewitnesses to a lot of this stuff. So I think prosecutors are probably hoping to get a lot of those people lined up instead of bringing more indictments, but we'll see what happens there.
All right, Meghann, just lastly, any more charges coming for Diddy? Do you anticipate?
Right now, no. I think the prosecutors would always say that's open, and they did do an open call for people to come and give an 800 number, so that could happen. But right now, the three charges that he has are pretty serious, and just the months that went into this grand jury investigation, I think those are pretty nailed down.
Okay. Meghann Cuniff, as always, can't thank you enough. We'll rely on you to help us make sense if there are any more developments in this case. Meghann, have a good night.
Yeah, thank you.